Hello, YouTube, and everybody beyond. Hope everybody's doing really well. I wanted to take a moment and say thank you so much for all the lovely comments and things that you left me on the video series that I did recently. It was a 5 video series about Donna Serafina, Reverend Donna Serafina. She is a psychic, and she made various readings on YouTube, and she published them to YouTube. And the particular one that we reviewed was the first reading she did on Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow, the missing kids out of Rexburg, Idaho. In her reading, she got pretty much every detail that you see in that probable cause affidavit. She got it 100% correct. And she's just really changed my opinion and my mind on psychics in general. So I just want to tell her thank you for that, and I love hearing your guys' comments and opinions and stuff about different connections that you made in her reading. And I just think we all have so much to share with each other, and between the exchange of ideas and stuff, we will probably, before the media even knows what happened, we will know. And that's pretty neat. So, moving on. This week was a crazy week. We saw on, I think it was on Monday or Tuesday, that the raid on Chad Daybell's barn, or outbuilding, that went down, and that was absolutely surprising. And coincidentally, the very same day, about 3 hours prior to that barn raid, I had contacted, I think I told you guys in one of my videos that I had tried to contact the Fremont County Prosecutor's Office. I tried to call Madison County. Well, finally, it was like the green light on everything. And I got straight through to Rexburg PD, and I spoke to Detective Ron Ball. And I prefaced what I said, like, I know this is going to sound crazy, but, and then I just laid it all out there. I said, there is this amazingly gifted psychic named Donna Serafina, and she saw every single thing that happened to those kids, and I'm just like blown away. And I think that you need to see her first reading because it was quite profound, in my opinion. And he said that he had received a letter a while back from a psychic, but there was a few things that were amiss, and so he kind of just dismissed it. But I basically said to him, no, she got so many things right. You've got to listen to this. And furthermore, you guys have to get into that barn, because she's saying that it's just going to be a nice little present wrapped with a bow of forensic evidence. And you guys are just going to get exactly what you need probably out of there based on what Donna saw. So after all that happened, we see it coming out now in the media, all the relevant facts that are, I guess, spinning off of what Donna said about this case, in that JJ was suffocated with a bag. And I'll play a clip for you guys real quick. I know I'm very old-fashioned here, getting my phone out and showing you clips, but I'm not savvy. I'm really not very savvy with showing you my screen and all that jazz. So I will show you this way. But anyway, what I'm going to show you is it's a video from Court TV of Ashley Bamfield, and she has a, what is he? He's a toxicology expert. And they're talking about the evidence that's showing that JJ was more than likely suffocated because of that bag that was over his head. And there was actually 2 layers. There was a white layer, I guess, of bag that was observed, but then overall there was a black bag that was then duct taped, which Donna completely talks about in her video. So here what they're addressing is they think that it's possible that risperidol played a role in this killing, and that JJ might have been drugged, and then that made it easier to, suffocate him. because why wouldn't he have clawed out of that bag? I guess that's the idea. Is like, if you're drugged on something, then you cannot escape your situation. You're too out of it. And so that's really what they go over right here. And I'm just going to play you a clip because it shows that Donna, January 31st, 2020, she's talking in I think the final 20 minutes maybe of her video, that JJ was suffocated with that bag. And there now, you know, it's in the news now. It's just crazy.
Robert, is there anything from
Okay.
Robert, is there anything from a toxicological standpoint that will indicate on the 7-year-old boy JJ either what killed him or who killed him?
Well, it really depends on what's found and what's available to be found. If there were drugs or poisons used in the course of his death or prior to, depending on what those drugs might be, they may indeed be detectable in samples after death. If drugs were used, depending on what was employed, they may indeed be detectable in the postmortem toxicology examination.
The theory here is that JJ was found with a white plastic garbage bag around his head. But what kind of drug could be administered to a child so as not to claw that bag away? And would that kind of a drug be detectable?
Well, there are quite a few drugs that could achieve that end goal. The real problem with any poisoning is getting the drug into the victim. Whether or not it's detectable in samples that might be available in this case is really going to depend on what particular drug, if any, were actually used. Some drugs, again, are quite readily detectable in postmortem samples, and some, because they are present at really, really low concentrations, may be more of a problem to find.
Do you have to go looking specifically for a certain drug? For lack of a better term, is it like a treasure hunt? You have to know what you're looking for, and can you actually find it?
That can help considerably. You can set up your instrumentation to look for specific compounds, and when you do that, the sensitivity increases dramatically. But much more often in the world of forensic toxicology, we are looking for what might be there without necessarily knowing what it is we're going to find. So we do a broad spectrum search looking for literally tens of thousands of different compounds.
Do some drugs actually disappear while the person is alive and then continue to disappear as the person decomposes?
Yes, and that's actually quite a complex question, because the process of drugs disappearing while a person is alive has to do with the normal metabolism of the drug in the body. And there's a number of drugs that do disappear quite quickly after death. During the process of decomposition, the chemistry is very different. So you have a different series of mechanisms by which drugs can disappear depending on what particular microbial colonization is occurring. There can be another problem.
Oh, I'll play that next part. Hold on.
And that is that some drugs that can be given to somebody prior to death can be mimicked by natural body chemicals that get broken down into that very same drug after death. Classic example is the date rape drug, gamma hydroxybutyrate, or GHB. So the body breaks down a normal neurotransmitter into that drug after.
Okay, so I also wanted to play
Ashley, first
for you. Hold on a second.
So now there's a new detail.
Just a moment. Where is it? Oh, she must have. Just a second. It was a great video the other day, and it specifically talked about the bag. Oh, it was this one. Was it this one? June 18th? No. No, it wasn't. Okay, well, anyway. Oh, it was this one. It was this one.
With JJ's remains. And okay. It was that. So now there's a new detail that's come with JJ's remains. And it was that they found JJ's body wrapped in garbage bags, but differently. His head was wrapped in a white garbage bag, and the rest of his body was wrapped all up, head included, in dark garbage bags. So it got us thinking, is it possible that the way that JJ died was due to that white trash bag, that white garbage bag? Was it possible he suffocated? And if so,
that's what Donna said.
Your natural instinct is to claw it off. How could that maybe be abated? could it have involved drugging? So I talked to Joseph Scott Morgan about that, and here's our conversation.
The first thing that jumps to mind, Ash, is the fact that JJ's body was wrapped in plastic, and that in and of itself is going to be a source for a wealth of information and evidence. We've got things like latent fingerprints, hair, dead skin cells, which, arises touch DNA, and people are thinking, well, the body was buried. You're going to have dirt on the outside. You're not going to have dirt on the inside, potentially. So they have to be very, very careful when they're even removing the packaging that the body is in, because any disruption in that can disturb this very, very fragile evidence. And then beyond that, you're going to be thinking from kind of a chemical level relative to JJ. He did have the bag over his head, and my thought is this a means in order to, say, for instance, suffocate JJ? I don't know, maybe so, but how do you get him to that point where you can place a bag over his head and kind of hold him in stasis, if you will, long enough to do that? That's where toxicology comes in.
Well, that was immediately what came to mind when I read the affidavit and saw there was a white plastic substance covering the child's head, but black plastic for the rest of the body. And anybody knows that you'll claw away at it if you can, and there'll be some sort of signs of struggle. Yeah. How would you try to avoid the signs of struggle? Would it be perhaps introducing a drug into the crime?
Yeah, I was kind of opining about this my own way the other day, because during my career as a medical legal death investigator, I worked a number of cases that all stem from an organization or called the Hemlock Society. That a famous book was published called Final Exit, and this is kind of a society that believes in assisted suicide and what they refer to as self-deliverance. But one of the methodologies that they talk about with this is simply ingesting copious amounts of a substance like diphenhydramine, which you can find in sleep aids and NyQuil and those sorts of things,
wow.
And then place a bag over your head so that you deprive yourself of oxygen.
Yeah.
This is a respiratory depressant. I think that that's probably what we would be looking at, something that would slow heart rate, something that would compromise your ability to breathe. You place the bag over the head, that compromises replenishment of oxygen, and you have an anoxic death, which literally means that the brain is going to shut down because it's not being oxygenated. It's important to remember with this that, the brain only makes up about, 2% of our total body weight, but it requires roughly 15 to 20% of all the oxygen that's utilized in our bodies.
That's a good
so
point.
The first thing that the layperson would think was, well, that would show up in an autopsy if there was some kind of drug introduced, especially in the JJ, who was buried as a full body. He wasn't dismembered, he wasn't burned like the other child was, Tylee. That would show up, or would it?
Well, that's the trick, isn't it? Because let me tell you what we're dealing with. If you give somebody a substance to ingest, say a drink is laced with something, you inject them with something, you give a small child something to say, well, this is to make you feel better. Remember, JJ was used to taking medication. Of course, he hadn't been taking it like he should have, but this child was used to being given medication. So Lord only knows what he may have been given.
Could have given him a fatal
aside,
dose.
Did you live long enough for the drugs to actually metabolize and to begin to break down? Or is there a half-life that's still going to exist in the drug? That is, does it exist in some form? Now,
so what I wonder, though, is how are they going to be able to differentiate between what was a normal dose and what was a fatal dose? And would it have metabolized through the process of breaking down, during decomposition? That's what I wonder. So I guess we leave it to the experts there. But anyway, that's just another classic example of Donna being right and her reading 100% being relevant, and absolutely, I feel it's a gold nugget to this whole investigation, because we, as the people who actually listen to her video and give credence to what she says, we will know the story of what happened to these kids before even the media, maybe even law enforcement. because I believe she truly saw. I mean, you just can't get that specificity that she got in her visions and her reading from that whole experience. Like, how are you going to know that Tylee was dismembered and burned? How are you going to know that JJ was underneath a tree? There were rocks near, that he was excuse me, wrapped in a bag and duct taped, and he was suffocated, and that sort of stuff. How are you going to know that detail? And how are you going to know that each child suffered a different fate? Because, I mean, yes, they both died, but they both died differently, we think, and they both were buried differently, and they were both handled differently. So the fact that she could identify those particular details is truly what gives me confidence in her story. And let's see, what else was I going to say to you guys? Oh, I was going to say, about a week ago, I contacted Zulemma. I know, it's crazy, but I was truly interested because she's been untouchable, and to me, she has so much explaining to do. How do you hang out with people like this for a long period of time, who are now caught up in this enormous scandal where children were killed, where spouses were killed, and somehow she gets out unscathed? So I was just curious if she would even answer. And I was curious if she was in the United States, because there's all this speculation that she moved out of the United States. And I just had a feeling that wasn't true. So I reached out to her. I asked her about her energy healing sessions. And I will read to you what happened. Yeah, I mean, it was brief. It's nothing that special. But I think it does prove she's in the USA. It started like this. I said, "Hello, I was referred to you for some energy healing work. Are you still taking cases? Thank you." She writes back, "Yes, I am. Who referred you?" I wrote back, "Great. My friend Katie has known of you for quite some time. She first heard about you in a podcast, so she gave me your number. I'm going through a bitter divorce, and she suggested energy work to repair my confidence, and she suggests I get help. I don't know what to do. She's had energy sessions before from a healer named Rick. Not sure the last name, but she said you are supposed to be one of the best. I told her I didn't want to work with a man because this is something I think a woman could better advise on. I just want to connect with God again, but I feel that I cannot see him in the midst of this storm." So she writes back. She is so skeptical of everybody, I'll tell you that, which I think I would be if I was in a particular position also. So she writes back, "I don't know a Katie, and I've never been on a podcast. That's very weird. She told me to contact," so then I wrote back, "She told me to contact you, so I'm not sure how then." That's what she told me as to how she knew of you. And after that, that was it. I mean, it was ultimately a flop, honestly. But I just felt like she has so much explaining to do. And if I could somehow talk to her, maybe finagle my way in and see if she would say something, which of course, she wasn't gonna. I guess it was wishful thinking on my behalf. But I was trying, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of it like every other web sleuther out here. And, we're all just kind of working together, trying to figure things out. Well, I'm trying to think if there's any new news. I just want to let you know that I'm going to start another series. It will be a surprise. I'll probably start it on Monday or Tuesday, so stay tuned to that. And I just wanted to kind of do a quick wrap-up video and say, again, thank you so much for all the new subscribers. I really, really appreciate it. And please, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And make sure you like the video just so it makes its rounds in the algorithm and stuff. But anyway, I really appreciate you guys, and thank you so much for all the comments and stuff and just the interaction. It's very interesting because I believe you guys know a lot, probably more than I know. Have a great night. Take care.